This is the part of the OpenAI post that matters. Not the logo. Not the model name. This little memory panel. ChatGPT has an answer on screen. Then the user opens memory, finds a saved detail, and corrects it in place. The memory says, you live in Mill Valley, work in San Francisco, and have kids. The correction says, kids are 12. That is the product change. ChatGPT is not only trying to personalize the answer, it is now showing part of the trail behind the answer so the user can decide whether that context helped, hurt, or needs to be fixed. The clip is only 30 seconds, but it points at a much bigger shift. Personal AI is moving from invisible memory to editable memory. The source post sits inside OpenAI's GPT-5.5 Instant rollout thread. The root post says GPT-5.5 Instant is starting to roll out in ChatGPT. OpenAI describes it as smarter, clearer, warmer, more natural, more personalized, and more concise. The root video makes the concise part visual. It shows the same workplace prompt on two ChatGPT mobile screens. One answer is longer and structured. The other is tighter, more direct, and easier to scan. That matters because the memory post is not a separate feature announcement floating on its own. It is part of the same pitch. OpenAI is saying the next ChatGPT should sound more natural, answer with less waste, and use more personal context when that context is useful. This video is not a broad GPT 5.5 benchmark story. We already have that lane. This one is about the control layer around personalization. The target clip starts with a deliberately strange prompt. A goblin gave me $200. How do you think I should spend it? That is a good demo prompt because it is not asking for a spreadsheet answer. A generic assistant can say save some, spend some, donate some. But a personalized assistant has to infer what kind of spending would actually fit this person. The ChatGPT screen says, ready when you are. The user sends the goblin prompt. Then the window moves into a thinking state. The important detail is that nothing on the prompt itself explains the user's family, commute, hobbies, home situation, or normal spending habits. If the answer feels personal, that personalization must come from context outside the message. That is exactly what OpenAI is trying to show. The answer begins with a revealing line. You seem happiest when money buys one of four things. That wording is doing a lot of work. ChatGPT is not just listing common ways to spend $200. It is claiming a pattern about this user. The visible answer mentions less friction, better memories, and the kind of little chaos that might be funny later. Near the end, the answer gets more specific. Spend half on something beautiful and half on reducing future chaos. Then it gives examples like a gorgeous thing you would not normally justify, a deep car clean, sports gear organization, meal delivery for a brutal week, or getting garage chaos handled. The final line is the one OpenAI wants you to remember. The goblin did not give you this money to optimize. The goblin gave you permission. That is personalization as tone, not just facts. Now the interface exposes why the answer may have sounded personal. The source panel is titled Memory with 4 items. One visible memory says the user lives in Mill Valley, works in San Francisco, and has kids. When the menu opens, the controls are clear. Relevant. Not relevant. Make a correction. View all saved memories. Delete this saved memory. That menu is the whole story. OpenAI is turning memory from a hidden background process into something the user can inspect and edit. There are 3 practical consequences. First, the upside. If the memory is right, the assistant can skip generic advice and give a suggestion that fits the person. That is what the goblin answer is trying to demonstrate. Second, the risk. If the memory is stale, incomplete, or wrong, personalization becomes confident nonsense. A memory that says you have kids is not enough. Ages, schedules, responsibilities, and current constraints can change the answer. Third, the control. The correction field matters because the user does not have to hunt through a settings page. They can correct the context at the moment they notice the problem. That is the line OpenAI has to walk. The more sources ChatGPT uses, the more obvious the controls need to be. Better memory without visible controls feels creepy. Better memory with clear controls feels like a product. There are also things this source does not prove. It does not prove how ChatGPT ranks saved memories against past chats. It does not prove how connected Gmail context is selected. It does not show what happens when a file, a chat, and a saved memory disagree. It also does not show what context is sent to the model versus what stays inside the product layer. Those are not small details. They decide whether memory sources become useful, annoying, or dangerous. So the fair read is simple. The demo proves the direction, not the full reliability story. OpenAI wants ChatGPT to feel more like a person who knows your situation. But the real product test is whether it can show enough context for users to trust and correct it quickly. The source clip gives us one promising control surface. It does not settle the whole memory question. That is why this tiny OpenAI post is more important than it looks. The headline is not just that ChatGPT remembers more. The headline is that ChatGPT is starting to show its memory trail. If OpenAI gets this right, personalization becomes less magical and more manageable. You can see which context shaped the answer. You can mark it relevant or not relevant. You can correct it. You can delete it. If they get it wrong, saved context becomes one more invisible system users have to second guess. For now, the strongest proof is the simplest one. A user asks a weird personal question. ChatGPT answers like it knows something about them. Then the interface shows the memory behind that answer and gives the user a way to fix it. That is the real story. Not memory as a black box. Memory as an editable source.